for a few minutes how missions-minded he is, and how receptive you all have been this morning. My parents and I are here, and I really have, the 10 minutes I've been here just felt so loved and welcome. So I really thank you so much, and for giving the time just to speak a little bit about what I've been doing. So I am from Sylacauga, born and raised here. I grew up in First Baptist Church, just a little bit down the road. And I graduated from Sylacauga High School, went on to Troy University, graduated in 2017. And since then, I have been living in Belo Horizonte, Brazil. So I would love to tell you a little bit about how small town girl from Sylacauga ended up across the ocean. Go to the next slide. So that's a little bit of what I'm going to share with you today. Like I said, I went to Troy. And when I went there, I knew my first year of college, I needed to find people, other Christians, who were serious about reading their Bible, sharing their faith, and continuing to grow. I'd been really involved in my youth group, and I just knew that I needed a community of people who would help keep pushing me towards Jesus. And so I got involved with Campus Outreach. Campus Outreach is a college ministry. It's been around for the last 40 years. It actually got started at Sanford University, just right down the road in Birmingham, and it's now grown to have hundreds of locations in the United States and about 15 international locations. So it's just a college ministry where we really invest in believers, and we help try and evangelize and help people learn how to share their faith, and we really encourage people to go. When I was in college, this picture right here on the left of me with the Brazilian flag, I actually got to go to Brazil. So CO not only helped me learn how to live as a Christian in the United States, it gave me an opportunity to see where God was working outside of Troy, Alabama, and my small little bubble. So when I went to Brazil, that was after my junior year. I went for the whole summer, and I just got to see that God is so at work in the life of Brazilian college students. I fell in love with the culture, with the people, and I just thought, you know what? I don't want to leave. I know my parents didn't love that, but I really just felt God was telling me, you don't have to be some super holy person. You don't even have to spend 20 years overseas. You can go and you can serve and you can be a part of what he's doing. And so I decided, that was my junior year, I decided, okay, I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to consider working for Campus Outreach in Brazil. So I applied, interviewed, got accepted, and after I graduated, I moved to Brazil. And I've been there for the past 2 years, and I've just recommitted to go back for 4 more years, so apparently I liked it. You can go to the next slide. So just a couple of facts about Brazil in general, and my city of Belo Horizonte, which means beautiful horizon, and it really does have beautiful horizons. Brazil is the 5th largest country in the world. It takes up about half of South America, so it is huge. And it's really going to become, in the next 20 to 50 years, one of the major players in the economy. It's the 9th largest economy right now. And so that's just to tell you, it's a really influential place. And everybody loves Brazilians. Brazilians can get into just about any country in the world. That was one of the things that really kind of inspired me to go to Brazil. While I am an American woman, and I probably will never go to the Middle East or any of these more secure and dangerous locations, Brazilians have just accessibility that I don't have because they're nice and everyone loves Brazil. And so that made me really excited that I could be a part of, in my 6 years in Brazil, I could be a part of seeing a Brazilian come to Christ, and then maybe seeing them go to places and share their faith that I could never go. So that was just super exciting to me. Also, they speak Portuguese, so that has been the struggle of the last 2 years learning Portuguese, but thankfully, God is good, and I've studied, and I speak Portuguese now. So a little bit about the college that I'm at. So UFMG, it's a state school, so it has about 50,000 students, so just a little bit bigger than Troy University, and so the way their college is set up is quite different. So instead of going to, having classes at a bunch of different buildings, if you're a certain major, you only have classes in one building. So there's 50,000 students, but I only really interact with about 1,000 of them. So the building that I go to every single day is the physical education building. I am the least athletic person in the world. My grandma laughed at me when I went there. I said, God humbles us. So this PE building is If you want to become a PE teacher, personal trainer, or a physical or occupational therapist, that's where you're going to take classes. So we have a team at the PE building and we have a team at the engineering building. And something just really cool about working with college students, I'm sure some of you younger people are probably thinking about college or headed that way in a few years, is that they're just really influential. They're really open, 18 to 22 years old. You're trying to figure out who you are, what you want to do with your life. There's a lot of changes and transitions coming up for the next 10 years. And so if you're to become a Christian sometime in those 4 to 5 years in college, all these major life decisions, who you marry, where you live, what you do, how you raise your kids, all of that could be drastically changed if you became a Christian. And so even though I was already a believer before I went to college, I see how my short time in college, that really opened my eyes to the world. And so I think that was one of my main reasons for wanting to go. I just wanted to give students the opportunity to experience what I did and just to really see the Lord work in their life, not just in college, but for the long term. So a little background about the Brazilian college student. So Brazil is a very religious country. You can see from this graph that there's 65% Catholic, 22% evangelical. So it's a pretty religious place. That being said, I think you can really start to see, just in the generations, just there's a disinterest in religion and kind of an apathy towards God. I would say you could probably see that here in the United States as well. People my grandparents' age were probably very devout, really loved the Lord, went to church, very involved. Maybe my parents' age, kind of like the, Christmas, Easter crowd, so they kind of went, but where it's not that involved. And then people my age, just God has no meaning to them. There's no personal connection, there's no relationship, and so there's really no point to going to church. And so that's kind of the demographic that I'm working with, that 18 to 22-year-old. They would all fall in that non-religious category. And honestly, a better word to describe them would be skeptical. The church in Brazil has a really bad reputation. In general, there's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of kind of taking your money and God will bless you. So there's just a really negative connotation when it comes to church. And so most of our students have had bad experiences, or someone in their family has had a bad experience. And so they just write it off completely. And so they're not hostile towards religion, but they're very skittish. And so when it comes to ministry, it really looks like building that relationship and building that trust before we can even start sharing the gospel. And because the churches have such a bad reputation, they in general don't have super great teaching. So most of the students that I'm interacting with, probably have a Bible in their house, but they've never really studied it. And so the things that I grew up just kind of knowing, Jesus is God, the Bible is true, church is a safe place, they don't have any of that. They don't think Jesus is God. That's crazy. They don't believe that the Bible is true. How could you ever trust a book written by men? And church, like I said, is not a good place. So that's kind of what we're working with, the type of student. So, where you would all start sharing your faith here, starting with testimony, I have to take it back about 50 steps and ask questions of, do you even believe in God? Do you think this is even relevant to your life? So what we do to try and combat just the difficulties of the type of students that we're working with is, like I said, build that relationship. Brazilians, let me tell you, I thought I was extroverted until I moved to Brazil, and they blow past me, you guys. They can hang out for hours. They love people. Like really, Southern hospitality in South America is just like outrageous. So, so like I said, that community is super important. We even like to say that Brazilians need to belong before they believe. And so this is one of our events that we do. We have this event once a month. It's called Café com Prosa, which means coffee with conversations. It's something really fun and kind of casual that we do. We come together, we drink coffee, we hang out, and then we introduce a subject and we have a discussion group. So we do this once a month, and this kind of helps just to, like I said, to build that community, but also to start opening doors to talk about more spiritual or gospel-themed subjects. So one of the things we talked about last semester was love versus hate. So we could spend probably years talking about examples of love and hate in the world, but we really wanted to challenge our students to think more introspectively, to look inside and see okay, how does love affect me? How does hate affect me? Do I do them well? So we talk about the different types of love. You have romantic love and familial love, and you have sacrificial love. And although we want all of those, I think we'd all agree that sacrificial love really impacts you more. And so we're taking this subject of love and we're trying to connect it to the idea of God, or a search for faith. And so we all in this room know that Jesus is the ultimate example of sacrificial love. Exactly. And so just kind of helping the students open their eyes that maybe this Jesus junk, these preconceived notions they have about the Bible, maybe that's really not true. Maybe there's something more to this God. And I think it's worth investigating. So this is a little bit of the day in the life. Like I said, we don't do Café con Prosas every day because I would be so tired. But Café con Prosas really just kind of opened the doors to deeper conversations, so that when I'm on campus hanging out, you can see this picture over here. It's a commuter campus, so there's no dorms, there's no nightlife. So we're really only on campus from 10 in the morning to about 4 in the afternoon. Thankfully, the students have really long breaks between their classes. Brazil in general is a much more slow and easygoing place. So in America, we schedule things by the hour and every minute is planned. They've kind of separated into like morning, afternoon, and night. And if you accomplish one or two things, it's been a productive day. So I learned how to slow down in Brazil. So like I said, Brazilians just really, they have that downtime in between classes. And so one thing we started doing this past semester was doing picnics on campus. So our big goal in this was to try and create this community, like I said, on campus, build friendships, not only with me as staff person, but also within the students themselves, and then start getting to know them. I think for me, it was really impactful when people took an interest in my life. They wanted to hear about my story, about my family, why I chose the major I did, what I wanted to do with my life. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a connection. We're trying to build a friendship. We want to love on them. We want to be Jesus for them. And so that's kind of where these conversations start happening. Hanging out, playing sports, eating, drinking some coffee, hanging out. And so just in these really casual environments, you're starting to create that trust, and you're really helping break down those barriers that the Brazilians have. A little bit about our evangelistic process. We break it down into 3 stages. Because the students are so unprepared really to even hear or believe the gospel, it takes about 2 to 3 years to become a Christian. There's just a lot of barriers there. And so this preparation stage is a lot of what I've been explaining, building the community, building the relationship and trust, and then challenging them to think deeper. Most of these students have never thought about what they want to do with their lives. They've never thought about God or how he could impact them. And so having conversations, so these are 2 girls, so Gabby is in the blue dress and Fabi is in the black dress. I've had conversations with Fabi about suffering, which is never a fun subject to talk about. No one really enjoys suffering. But it really has opened up opportunities to share the differences in how we approach difficult subjects. So because I believe in God, and I believe God has a purpose for our lives, I can look at suffering with a totally different view. Whereas for her, she's experienced a lot of suffering in her family, grandparents passing away. It made her run away from God. She doesn't even know if he exists anymore, because it brings up the question of, why did bad things happen to good people? Could God even care? And so just getting to meet with her in these really vulnerable moments, sharing about difficult things, I've been able to share and say, hey, I get it. Like, this is a really real thing you need to wrestle through, but I think it's worth it to investigate and see, could God care about me in the midst of a broken world? Cool story about Gabby, the girl in the blue. So they've both been involved in ministry, probably about a semester now. Gotten to know them, spent time with their families. Right before I came to the U.S. before Christmas, we went and did a beach project. We went for 1 week to the beach, really huge sacrifice. And so we went and we did all the hanging out and fun, but we also, because of that week, we spent a whole week dissecting the parable of the Good Samaritan. And so we talked about each character, and instead of just looking at them objectively, we tried to view ourselves as these people in the story. So the Good Samaritan, who loves and sacrifices, and man, I want to look like that, but I just don't. I'm just not that good all the time. Maybe sometimes, but not consistently, you know? And then, wow, those religious leaders. Yeah, I look like them. I judge people. I ignore people that need my help. But when we're really honest, when we really look at our hearts and how messed up we are on the inside, we look like the hurt man on the side of the road, and we need a good Samaritan. And so with Gabby talking about this story, and for the first time her seeing herself as someone who needs help, who needs a good Samaritan, and introducing the idea of Jesus, you know, who he really is, her mind was blown. You know, she just said, I have so many questions. I have no answers. I don't even know where to start. Please help me. And so she went into the week really just interested in the beach and the friends, and left saying, I need to figure out who this Jesus is. Please help me. So I'm really hoping and praying that next semester we can start a study with her, and we can start trying to figure out who Jesus is.
Amen.
So after the preparation, you kind of move into the investigation stage. So this is the fun part, where you get the hard questions, and y'all, it has really changed the way I walk with the Lord. It's really, I think that's the thing I'm so thankful for. I've had to become strong in my faith. I've had to do research in my Bible, because they're coming in with hard questions sometimes. The girl in the middle is my roommate. She's an English teacher. We have an English part of our ministry, and then we have the campus part of our ministry. But these two guys on the edges, you've got Gabriel and Daniel. They've been involved in the ministry, probably going on 2 years now, and oh man, they're like little brothers to me. They're just great guys. They've exclusively been studying the Bible this past semester, and are really at the point, they've broken down so many barriers. You know, we've been sharing and sharing and sharing, and they're kind of at the point, they're not Christians yet, they just don't understand grace. And I think we would all say that's the part that was probably the most difficult for us to understand. It just doesn't make sense until God makes it make sense. So I had a conversation with Daniel actually before I came back to the U.S., and we're talking about grace and salvation, and he asked me, he said, does it really have to be 100% Jesus, 0% me? Could it be like 99% Jesus, 1% me? Like, can't I just do something to earn it? And so it has been just so encouraging seeing them. You know, when they first got involved, there was really no interest in God, and now, you know, almost 2 years later, to see that they're so close to understanding the gospel. They're so close. And so we're really just praying, and I would ask that you be praying with us, that the gospel and that grace, that the Holy Spirit would make it click, make it make sense. And then the last phase of the process is the decision phase. This is where we want all of our students to end up. These are two of my really close friends, Vitor and Jenny. So I actually met them when I went to Brazil, when I was in college, and they were wild and crazy freshmen. They did not know the Lord, and I got to be friends with them, and they got involved in the ministry. And after I graduated and moved back to Brazil to work there, they became Christians within that first year of me living in Brazil. And so even though I missed the whole middle part, I got to see the very beginning and the very end. And it has been, I mean, we can all attest the transformative work of the Spirit. You know, it has been amazing to see them not only learn how to read their Bibles and get discipled, but get really involved in our church, and their members been baptized and serving, and it's been awesome even to try and do ministry with them on campus. You know, they understand what we're doing. They're fruits of our ministry. They want their friends to come to know Jesus. And it's really cool with them. They're the only Christians in their family. So not only are we affecting the college campus, we're only there 4 or 5 years, we're starting to see families impacted. You can really see at our church, there's a lot of young couples, probably in their 30s and 40s, with kids who became Christians through the ministry 10 to 15 years ago. And they become believers, and they're raising their children in the church for the first time. And a lot of their parents have come to know the Lord. And so it's been really encouraging for me to see that something as small as a college ministry, God is using it to create lots of ripples. So that has just been so encouraging to me. Jenny and Vitor will graduate this semester, and they're both actually interested in working with us. And so I'm really hoping they become my coworkers next semester. That would be great. And now the question is, how can you be a part of it? Prayer is my biggest request. I can see that you are faithful to pray, and you guys are prayer warriors. And so I need that. If you do email, I have an email update that I send out once a month, just so you can be more up to date on which students I'm meeting with and what studies are going on and who's become a Christian. Those are the best emails to send out. So I would love, you can just find me after the service. I got a little sheet of paper. You can write down your email and I'll put you on there. Also, the way Campus Outreach works, it's a nonprofit organization, and so all of the missionaries are funded by financial support. So supporters will give to Campus Outreach, and then Campus Outreach will pay me. So that's kind of how it works. It's all tax deductible, which is awesome. And so if you're interested in being a part of my support team, or if you have a Sunday school that would like to do that together, I would love to talk to you about that afterwards. That's, since I'm going back for 4 years, there's just some more financial needs that I have. And then if you know people who you think would be interested in this, people who'd be interested in letting me share my story and what God is doing there in Brazil, I love to share. I love my job. I really feel so blessed and thankful that I get to do ministry here. You guys are missionaries here, doing work in Silicaga, and I get to do it in Brazil. And so we're all living out the Great Commission together. And it's just been so encouraging for me to come back and hear stories of what God is doing in your lives and your families, and getting to share with you all a little bit today. Thank you so much. Well, do you guys have any questions? I know there's probably a lot, I kind of flew through that. I don't know if there's any questions you have about the culture or the food or ministry. I've got a couple more minutes hopefully, so I would love to take some of those right now.
What kind of food do you have to eat over there?
So food is, it's pretty simple. I really thought that Brazilians would eat lots of spicy food, kind of like Mexican, but they don't like spicy food. So it's all really fresh, it's all grown there, but it's rice and beans, meat, salad, and fruit. So I am very healthy in Brazil, where I eat a lot of Chick-fil-A here. So, so it's really good though. My parents can attest. They came and visited, and we ate lots of good steakhouses and stuff.
Well, how many's on the staff with you there?
Yes, so we have about 22 people on our team. I'm not doing this by myself, thank goodness. And the way that kind of breaks down, we have like 3 smaller parts of our team. You have about 4 or 5 people who work in the resource department, so they're doing finances and planning and really just keeping us alive, basically. Then you have the English teachers, which my roommate is an English teacher. They're not only reaching out to the college campus, they're also trying to do ministry with the young professionals in the city. And so they use a really tangible, wanted skill of speaking English that many Brazilians really, really want to learn because it just helps them succeed in life. And then using that to build relationships and do Bible studies. And then you have my area of campus. I work with 4 other people at the physical education building, and we are on campus every day. And then there's another 4 at the engineering building. So we've got a great big team, and it's been really awesome to work together with people.
Can you say John 3:16 in Portuguese?
Oh, I don't have that by memory, but I can probably read it to you. Yeah, that's the next step, trying to memorize verses in Portuguese, a little more difficult.
How about just Jesus loves you? Can you do that?
Jesus, ele ama você. Thank you.
I guess you said that.
Yeah. I was like, I could have said anything. I do remember the first time I prayed in Portuguese. That was so nerve-wracking. I never really experienced childlike faith before I said, God help us, amen. It was very simple.
Yeah. So after working with the campus outreach here,
Yes.
and then going over there, what would you say in comparison as far as the reception to the gospel compared to people here in the States, that age?
Yeah, so I think, like I said, you're starting to see just kind of the disinterest in spiritual things with people of my generation. But in general, people here in the Bible Belt are still just much more prepared to hear the gospel. I would say, in my experience at Troy, most of my friends who became Christians or the people I did ministry with, it was just a question of lordship. They had basically all the aspects of the gospel and most of the belief, but there was no real conviction. There was no real need for God. We like to think we can do things by ourselves. That's the problem of humans. And so in general, I would say where it takes about, 6 months to a year to become a Christian here, it's just taking like double or triple that amount of time in Brazil because they're just not prepared to hear the gospel. There's just so many so many things they have to work through, so many preconceptions they have that American college students just typically don't have. So it was a big learning curve for sure.
Yeah,
You know. Awesome. Is there anything else? Well, thank you so. Oh, I'm sorry. How safe? Okay, so I live in a city of 4 million, so definitely less safe than Sylacauga. Just imagine if you lived in Atlanta or New York City. I just like to say there's some Brazilian common sense things that I just can't do. I can't really walk around flashing my phone. Typically, if I'm going to take the bus, I put my book bag on the front. And then there's just like certain neighborhoods I don't go to, you know. So it sounds scary, you know, because it's not quite as, I don't know, friendly as Sylacauga is, but it's just kind of a big city to live in, and you get used to it, and I've never had anything scary happen to me.
What part of Brazil? North, south?
Yeah, so I wish I should have put a map up there. So Brazil's huge, you know, you got this big old Brazil, and I'm kind of in the middle, about 10 hours inland. So when we do go to the beach, we have about a 10-hour trip to Rio, which is close, but not quite as close as I would want it. So we're in the middle of a mining country. So mining is one of the big things of the economy of my state.
You said a big portion, based on your graph, was Catholicism.
Yes, sir.
How was that then?
So, you know, I only work with college students, but I've had a couple of students who would say they're Catholic, you know. In general, I think I've probably met one student who seems pretty devoutly Catholic. He goes to Mass, he's very involved. That being said, there's like a huge disconnection to his actual life. So it seems to be more of just the religious thing your family does. There's not a lot of personal impact or relationship with God. It's just what the family does, and so you do it too.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of just the background of Catholicism here.
Yeah.
Well, hearing you speak and listening to your story is so inspirational
Thank
for all of us. To just know somebody your age can be so important and so open and giving to people in our country, knowing that Jesus loves us all.
Exactly.
Is your message
Thank
that I'm
you.
getting, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I never thought that I would be a missionary, and I thought you had to be like some really super spiritual, amazing person. And yeah, it's just a testimony that God can use anybody.
Amen.
Awesome. Well, I will not take any more of your time, but thank you so much. If you have any more questions or you want to get your email, just come and find me after. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.